Story never end. Today's book is one that I genuinely find more unsettling the more I think about it. Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, published in 1932.
The reason it's unsettling isn't what you'd expect. You don't finish it feeling scared of a dystopia. You finish it and then pick up your phone, and then you put the phone down and go wait.
Exactly it. The horror of this book is not that the future looks terrible. It's that the future looks pretty nice, and that should terrify us.
State, that's what they call the society in the book, runs on happiness. Engineered, manufactured, algorithmically optimized happiness.
Huxley wrote this in 1932, 94 years ago, without any knowledge of social media, dopamine loops, or attention economics. He just followed the logic of consumer capitalism to its conclusion.
Hit you with the 2026 angle right up front. You know how app designers have been openly talking for years about the engagement loop, variable reward schedules, infinite scroll, notification timing, all borrowed from slot machine psychology?
It's all public knowledge at this point.
Described the exact same system, except instead of a phone, it's a drug called soma, and instead of an algorithm, it's prenatal chemical conditioning. The delivery mechanism is different. The architecture is identical.
Scariest part, in both cases, the people inside the system are genuinely happy.
This is to the real question this book is asking. If the happiness is real, does it matter that it was manufactured?
The world first. The world state exists in what they call the year of our Ford 632 Ford, as in Henry Ford, because his assembly line production method is the founding mythology of this civilization.
Ours. Applied to human beings.
Exactly. People aren't born anymore, they're decanted. In the central London hatchery and conditioning center, human embryos are grown in bottles, processed on conveyor belts, sorted into predetermined social castes.
Beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. From the moment of fertilization, your entire life trajectory is decided by the state. And it's not just a label, it's a biological fact. Lower caste embryos are chemically stunted, deprived of oxygen, deliberately kept from reaching their intellectual potential.
Genius of the system, the part that makes it different from every previous dystopia, is that the epsilon worker is perfectly happy being an epsilon worker. He was conditioned from infancy to love his work and to feel mild contempt for anyone in a higher caste, because that makes him feel better about his own life.
A book that really nails this. Mustapha Mond, the world controller, essentially the architect of all this, explains it. He says, read it.
The quote is, "That is the secret of happiness and virtue, liking what you've got to do." All conditioning aims at that, making people like their inescapable social destiny.
What you've got to do. That's the whole game. Not forcing people to accept their lot. Engineering them to love it. There's no resistance because there's nothing to resist against. You already want exactly what you're given.
Maps so precisely onto the recommendation algorithm conversation. You think you're choosing what to watch, what to buy, what to believe. But the system has already predicted, with remarkable accuracy, what you'll respond to, and it's serving you exactly that.
What you've been given to like. And you call it personal taste.
Talk about the conditioning mechanisms in detail, because this is where the book gets genuinely technical. Huxley knew his science.
Mechanism is hypnopaedia, sleep teaching. As children, everyone has played recordings while they sleep, and these recordings implant moral values, class attitudes, and consumer preferences directly into the subconscious.
Has this incredible section where we hear some of the actual hypnopedic lessons being played. One of them goes, "Alpha children wear gray. They work much harder than we do, because they're so frightfully clever. I'm really awfully glad I'm a beta, because I don't work so hard."
And teaching children to be grateful for their assigned place in the hierarchy. Played on repeat while they sleep. They wake up and this feels like their own opinion.
To be careful here, because I think the tempting but wrong reading is, this is propaganda. Propaganda implies someone knowingly lying to you. Hypnopaedia, like algorithmic curation, works differently. It's not lying, it's selecting. It's not giving you false information, it's shaping what feels natural, what feels obvious, what you don't even think to question.
2016 nostalgia wave on TikTok is actually a really interesting case study here. There are millions of people right now nostalgic for pre-algorithm internet, early YouTube, old MySpace, the early 2010s web, even among people who were like 8 years old back then and barely experienced it. The nostalgia is for an imagined authenticity.
The conditioning has become visible enough that people can feel it, even if they can't quite articulate what they're reacting to.
And Huxley's characters don't even have that. They have no concept of a before. They were born into the system.
Characters. We've got Bernard Marx, an alpha-plus psychologist who's maladjusted, physically shorter than most alphas, socially awkward, never quite fits in.
The rumor that alcohol got into his blood surrogate during development, which is why he's stunted. Which is kind of devastating. Even in a world engineered for perfection, there are still production defects.
It is interesting because he's the character who articulates the critique of the world state most clearly. He refuses soma, he wants to experience real emotions, he dislikes the casual promiscuity that everyone else treats as normal.
This is key, he's not actually principled. He's disaffected because the system rejected him. He's on the outside looking in, and he's bitter about it.
Very clear later in the book when he gets famous for bringing back John the Savage from the reservation, and he immediately pivots to enjoying exactly the lifestyle he used to despise.
John into content. That's what he does. He schedules parties, invites important people, shows off the savage like a discovery he made, soaks up the attention.
26 terms, he's the anti-algorithm creator who goes viral for criticizing algorithms and then uses that virality to grow a platform and sell merch.
The type. This you, energy. Clocks himself without realizing it.
The main character on the world stateside is Lenina Crown, a beta who works at the hatchery and conditioning center. She's essentially the ideal citizen.
Soma when she's stressed, she has casual relationships with multiple men without any emotional attachment, which is considered healthy and normal. She enjoys communal activities, she follows all the social scripts perfectly. And here's the uncomfortable thing, she seems genuinely happy. She's not suppressing anything. She's not performing. She's just fine.
Respond to that, I think Huxley is deliberately leaving this ambiguous. There are moments, small moments, where Lenina seems to brush up against something that doesn't fit her conditioning, a flicker of something that might be deeper feeling, but she somaizes it away so quickly that neither she nor we can be sure it was real.
You're scrolling and you hit a piece of content that genuinely moves you, and for a second something real opens up, and then the autoplay kicks in and you're watching something else and the moment is gone. Did you feel something or didn't you?
Never resolves this for Lenina, and I think that's intentional. Her happiness might be completely authentic. Or it might be so thoroughly constructed that authenticity is no longer a meaningful category.
Sentence that's going to live rent-free in my head.
To talk about soma. It's the drug of the world state, completely legal, universally distributed, no hangover, no side effects, just pure calm and happiness on demand.
Government slogan for it is, a gram is better than a dam. And also, 1 cubic centimeter cures 10 gloomy sentiments.
Frames soma as the world state's master tool. Whenever there's emotional discomfort, grief, frustration, anger, longing, soma dissolves it before it can build into anything. There's a character moment where someone is distributing soma rations to a group of lower caste workers, and it's described almost liturgically, like a communion.
Point, Huxley is drawing a direct parallel to religion. In his foreword he's explicit about it. Soma does what religion promised to do, provide comfort, meaning, relief from suffering, community. But without the side effect of making people ask difficult questions about justice or transcendence.
Mustapha Mond uses, Christianity without tears, that's what soma is.
It's devastating. Because Christianity, or any religion that takes suffering seriously, at least gives you a framework for meaning-making through difficulty. Soma just removes the difficulty. No suffering, no meaning-making needed, no growth.
Onto the dopamine economy. Every platform is trying to make itself more soma-like. Faster gratification, lower friction, higher emotional impact per scroll. The ideal product, from an engagement standpoint, is one that makes you feel good immediately and asks nothing of you.
Clicking in on a feed is genuinely neurologically similar to a mild soma dose. You're getting a steady stream of variable rewards, your cortisol goes down, your dopamine goes up, and the outside world with its actual demands and difficulties kind of fades.
Soma in the book was designed with social stability as the explicit goal. Our soma was designed by accident, it's just what maximizes engagement, and engagement is what the business model rewards.
What was designed or evolved doesn't really change the effect on the nervous system.
We have to talk about John the Savage, because he's the real heart of this novel, and the most tragic figure.
He grew up on a savage reservation in New Mexico, one of the areas outside world state control where people still live in the old ways, family units, religion, disease, aging, death. The full human experience, including the painful parts.
Mother Linda was actually a world state woman who got stranded there by accident. She gave birth to John, which in world state terms is a grotesque scandal, and raised him as best she could among people who didn't accept either of them.
Our framework for understanding the world comes from one source, a battered copy of Shakespeare's complete works that he found. That's his language for desire, for loss, for love, for betrayal. He thinks in Shakespearean terms.
Sets up the central collision of the book. When Bernard brings John back to London, John encounters the world state for the first time, and his reaction is pure delight, because he's been living in what sounds like misery. And then, slowly, he starts to understand what he's actually looking at.
Disillusionment is with Lenina. He falls desperately in love with her, but in the most Shakespearean way possible. He wants to court her, worship her from a distance, earn her, suffer for her. He quotes Romeo and Juliet at her.
Lena's response, completely genuinely, is to just try to sleep with him immediately, because that's what you do when you like someone.
Completely different emotional languages. Lenina isn't being cruel, she genuinely can't understand why he'd want the elaborate emotional superstructure when the physical act is available right now. The waiting, the longing, the suffering, those are bugs, not features.
One can't have her the world state way because for him, the desire and the suffering are the point. He's been raised on a tradition where love requires danger and difficulty to mean something.
Such a live debate in 2026. The whole Delula thing, this idea that you should believe in something, chase something, suffer for something, even if everyone around you thinks it's irrational. John the Savage would be very Delulu by current standards.
Maybe Huxley is saying that some degree of Delulu is necessary. That you need to be able to want something you can't immediately have, or you lose something essential. The philosophical climax of the book is a long conversation between John and Mustapha Mond that I think is one of the great debate scenes in all of literature.
Isn't a villain. He's the scariest kind of character, someone who has read everything, understood everything, and made a completely coherent choice that you disagree with.
Reveals he has a secret library of banned books, Shakespeare, the Bible, philosophy, all forbidden to the public, all studied personally by the controllers.
This system knowing exactly what it costs. He gave up science, gave up art, gave up religion, gave up deep personal connection, and he chose stability and happiness instead. And he'll tell you why at length, lucidly, with no apology.
Change that kills me, John says, and this is a direct quote, but I don't want comfort. I want God, I want poetry, I want real danger, I want freedom, I want goodness. I want sin.
And replies, in fact, you're claiming the right to be unhappy.
All right then, I'm claiming the right to be unhappy.
Long pause in the text, and then John goes further, listing everything he's claiming the right to, not to mention the right to grow old and ugly and impotent, the right to have syphilis and cancer, the right to have too little to eat, the right to be lousy, the right to live in constant apprehension of what may happen tomorrow, the right to catch typhoid, the right to be tortured by unspeakable pains of every kind.
A long silence. Then Mond says, I claim them all.
It's the moment where Huxley puts his cards on the table. He is not actually arguing that suffering is good. He's arguing that the capacity to suffer is inseparable from the capacity for everything that makes human life worth living. You cannot keep one and eliminate the other.
It eliminates grief, but it also eliminates the depth of love that makes grief possible. It eliminates rage, but also the righteous anger that has ever driven any moral reform. It eliminates the fear of death, but also the urgency and meaning that mortality lends to every choice.
2026, I think we are genuinely running this experiment. The optimization of experience toward comfort has accelerated so much. Frictionless payment, instant delivery, content that never challenges you, relationships mediated through the most comfortable possible interface. At what point do we notice the cost?
Talk about Helmholtz Watson, because I think he's the most underrated character in the book.
Alpha Plus, extremely talented, works as a writer and lecturer. He's everything Bernard isn't, socially successful, physically impressive, admired. And he's still miserable.
In a reactive way like Bernard. He's miserable because he can feel the gap between what he's capable of producing and what the system allows him to produce.
He could write something genuinely powerful. He can feel the shape of it. But the world state has no use for powerful writing. Powerful writing generates emotion, and emotion is destabilizing. So he writes propaganda and pneumatic jingles and feels the whole time like he's wasting himself.
What he wants isn't just self-expression, he wants difficulty. He tells John that he thinks he'd write better if things were harder, if he had real obstacles to write against.
Up being exiled to an island, one of several islands where misfits and freethinkers are sent. And he's happy about it. He asks Mond if he can go somewhere with terrible weather, because he figures that's where the best writing comes from.
Or a farming versus genuine cultivation question. You can build an image of being a deep, serious thinker. Or you can go somewhere hard and actually become one. Helmholtz wants the latter.
The book honors him for it. Of the three fates at the end, Bernard shipped off to an island against his will, John's tragedy, and Helmholtz's voluntary exile. Helmholtz is the only one who gets something like a dignified ending.
His death. This section is brutal and I don't think it gets enough attention.
Is John's mother. She comes back to the world state with Bernard and John, but she's old, she's overweight by world state standards, she's physically marked by years on the reservation. She's embarrassing.
The humane solution, by world state standards, is to keep her on permanent soma holiday. Maximum dosage. She lives in a continuous pleasant haze until she dies.
John goes to see her in the hospital. She's surrounded by children on a field trip, because in this world, death is managed as a social and pedagogical event. Children are brought to watch people die so they're not scared of it, and they're given sweets and distractions.
Children are more interested in the sweets. Linda barely recognizes John. She's deep in the soma dream, and when she does see him, she calls him by different names of men she knew on the reservation.
A son watching his mother not quite see him, not quite be present, in this medicated unreachable place, is one of the most genuinely moving things in the book. Huxley isn't usually known for emotional gut punches, but that one lands.
It makes the philosophical argument visceral. Soma doesn't kill Linda. It just means she isn't really there. The price of no suffering is no presence.
One can't even grieve properly because the whole hospital environment is designed to neutralize grief before it happens.
Nurses are more concerned about disturbing the other patients than about this man watching his mother disappear. The ending. John escapes London after a breakdown, goes to live in a lighthouse outside the city, tries to live a simple, difficult, penitent life. He wants to suffer, deliberately, to stay real.
World state media finds him. A journalist films him doing one of his self-flagellation rituals. He developed this practice of whipping himself as a kind of expiation, and broadcasts it. And then people start coming to watch.
Huxley does something really uncomfortable. The crowd that shows up isn't hostile to John. They just treat him as entertainment. They chant, they mock gently, they want more performance. Some of them join in. And gradually, in a kind of collective soma-intoxicated frenzy, John joins in too.
The thing he was trying not to do. He becomes the content. The system absorbed him.
Next morning he wakes up, looks at what happened, and hangs himself.
The ending is so much bleaker than 1984. Because Winston Smith is tortured into surrender, there's a villain, there's a mechanism, there's something to point at. John is broken by a crowd of people having fun. There's no torturer. There's just the aggregate pressure of human attention and his own exhausted limits.
The book doesn't let you fully blame the crowd either. They're just doing what they were conditioned to do, seeking pleasure, watching interesting things. They're not malicious. The system just makes cruelty fun and calls it recreation.
What this reminds me of? The canon event conversation. This idea that some events just have to happen, they're inevitable, they shape you, you can't avoid them. John's attempt to resist the system by removing himself was never going to work, because the system had already expanded to include his resistance as a form of content.
The only way to not be content is to not exist.
Nihilistic penguin energy conclusion, honestly. Huxley was not writing a hopeful book.
Bring in the comparison everyone makes, Huxley versus Orwell. It's worth doing carefully.
1984 is a fear-based control system. Surveillance, punishment, threat, pain. Brave New World is a pleasure-based control system. Conditioning, soma, engineered desire, artificial satisfaction.
Grossman made this argument famously in Amusing Ourselves to Death in 1985. He said Orwell feared those who would ban books, but Huxley feared a culture where no one would want to read books because there was always something more immediately pleasurable available.
26 version of this. The question isn't whether governments are watching you. The question is whether you'll notice what's happening when the distraction machine is so good that noticing requires genuine effort.
Quote from Mustapha Mond that I think is the single most chilling line in the book. He's explaining the philosophy of the world state to the students touring the hatchery at the very beginning. The world's stable now. People are happy, they get what they want, and they never want what they can't get.
Want what they can't get. That's the entire system in one clause. It's not about giving people everything. It's about engineering the wanting. Calibrate desire to exactly match supply, and you have perfect stability forever.
Look at how much engineering of desire happens in 2026. The algorithm doesn't just show you things to buy, it shapes what you find beautiful, what feels aspirational, what seems like a normal life to want. It's desire formation upstream of any individual choice.
You have preferences. But your preferences were trained.
Grown up with a different feed, you'd want different things and feel equally certain those were authentically yours. I want to spend a moment on what the book says about art and science, because Mond's argument here is genuinely sophisticated and worth engaging with seriously.
Tells John and Helmholtz that science is also suppressed in the world state. Not just art, science too. New discoveries are vetted and often shelved if they might cause destabilization.
The argument is that science, taken to its logical conclusion, threatens the stability of any order, because it keeps producing new truths that require people to revise their beliefs and behaviors. A society optimized for happiness and stability cannot afford unlimited scientific freedom.
Real argument that real governments have made, and continue to make. Mond isn't wrong about the tension. He's wrong about which side to choose.
Crucially, Mond made this choice for himself, knowing what he was giving up. He tells Helmholtz that he was himself once a young scientist with promising research, and he was given a choice: submit to the restrictions or be exiled. He chose to submit, and eventually became a controller.
The inside of the system over the integrity of his work. And he's not defensive about it. He thinks it was the right call for the world, even if it cost him something personally.
A decision where you understand the system you're participating in, understand the costs, and choose to be complicit because you think you can do more good from inside is a decision a lot of people in tech have made.
Huxley is asking, is that wisdom or is that rationalization? Because the system doesn't actually change. You just become a more sophisticated participant in it.
Bring this home. What does Brave New World ultimately say to someone living in 2026?
It says, the control systems that should worry you most are not the ones that make you miserable. They're the ones that make you feel seen, satisfied, and free while actually narrowing your world.
Is not anti-happiness. Huxley isn't saying suffering is good. He's saying that a life fully shielded from difficulty, from loss, from the terrifying openness of genuine choice, is not a fully human life even if it feels great.
Asking, what are you trading away, and are you doing it consciously?
Moment near the end where Mond says to John, you can't have a lasting civilization without plenty of pleasant vices. And then he lists what the world state has given up: noble behavior, heroism, deep personal love. And he says the price is worth it. And you have to sit with the fact that by certain metrics, he might be right.
Expectancy is high, the crime rate is zero, nobody is poor, nobody suffers. By utilitarian math, this is the best possible world.
Used to world where Shakespeare is banned because his work requires emotional complexity the people are no longer equipped to handle.
Huxley, clearly, thinks that's not okay. He thinks the Shakespeare matters more than the stability. He's making a bet on human depth over human comfort.
You agree with that bet is, I think, the real question the book leaves you with.
The most honest answer is, I want to agree with the bet, but I still picked up my phone 3 times while we were recording this.
Exactly the right place to end.
Would be so tired of us.
Story never end. Rereading yesterday's classics through today's lens. We'll see you next time.
Next time.